It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports, HawgSports.com. Well, we're going to talk about the Arkansas-Texas game, obviously. We're going to talk a little bit about Arkansas basketball, the win over Winthrop, and what's ahead. And we're going to talk a lot about the Arkansas coaching search as that heats up. We're going to be joined by Kevin Bohannan of HawgSports and Eric Henry of Horns 24/7 to help us break down the matchup and discuss some other things as well. All that and more on today's episode of HawgSports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain Commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every budget and every lifestyle. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team service centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle, get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. HawgSports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
All right, I want to mention real quick, everybody, that HawgSports is 2 months for $1 right now. We always want to make it as easy as possible for people to get in the door, and this is an important time. 2 months for $1 basically gives you access to the site throughout everything that's coming that's like really big, the coaching search, all the assistant coach hirings that's coming, all the other stuff, the inner workings with the athletic departments that's coming over the next couple of months, the transfer portal madness, all of that. And what I can say to everybody, like we work our ass off doing this kind of stuff. This is my full-time job. I've been doing this for 23 years now. I think I've developed a pretty good reputation. I want to talk about a couple of other things too, but that's kind of, it's a ploy to get you through the door, because I know once I get you there that you're going to stick around. There's a reason that we're one of the 10 largest sites in the entire country at Arkansas, covering a team that has been underperforming for years in football. So I like to think that we do a pretty good job over there. And I don't give everything out on this show, obviously. A lot of the stuff that we talk about is later information. My main goal is to take care of our VIP subscribers at HawgSports. So, we did the 75% off deal, which $30 for the entire year. Pretty great deal. And now we're doing the two months for $1, which I think is a pretty amazing way to check us out and see what we offer. And I think that I see a lot of people out there is like, oh, we can get this for here, and I would challenge you to go check it out, see what we offer, and then make a decision. I think you'd be surprised with what you find. Every time I post something like that, I see somebody post something like he's posting it because I'll post coaching search update. The latest stuff that we got out of yesterday's meeting, for example, all the stuff that Hunter Yurachek is telling people and stuff. That's all at HawgSports. And I'll see people reply like, he just wants you to pay for his service. Like, is everybody not paying for a service here? Like whether you're paying with your taxes or your insurance or because you want Netflix or something, are you not paying something? Like the person who makes that comment, they're working for free? I guess it would be great to everybody work for free, but this is America, I guess. So if I can't earn a living doing the job that I'm doing, then what am I doing here? And I think you would see a pretty big void in your Arkansas Razorback coverage. I don't mean to toot my own horn or anything. I'm talking about our entire team. But I think you'd see a pretty big void, not just in the coverage that we have, but in the trickle-down effect, the repackaging of some of the stuff that we put out. Just saying, I think you would. But anyway, I think it's a pretty good deal. We've had in the thousands now take advantage of these offers that we've been putting out. So join up at HawgSports, check it out. And guys, I like the back and forth with people. I like reading people are like, don't pay attention to the idiots in the comments, but I like the idiots in the comments. I always talk about the roller coaster I like with Razorback football, and I talk about getting invested in Razorback football and putting your heart into it and letting them just rip it out. Part of the human experience, just getting tortured, I guess. That's part of it. But I also think it makes the sweet time seem really sweet. And unfortunately, we haven't had enough of those. And maybe we'll get a little bit of hope. And, I talk about this coaching search all the time and how important it is, and not so much important about the day as much as we all want a big time hire. We all want to see something big that just like, hell yeah, Arkansas, told you, something like that just makes you feel a certain way. But I also think 365, 730, those days when we want to feel really good about whoever this coaching search hire is. So follow along with us at HawgSports. We're getting down to the nitty gritty of it, and you can sign up for just $1 for 2 months. I think that's a pretty good deal. But, like, here's another thing. I'm in the comments looking at stuff, and I'm like, I felt like I put out, I wanted to put out some information from one of the things I was hearing. Like, we put out a lot of stuff, like everything from, a lot of stuff that originates comes from HawgSports, like in terms of like Arkansas, wanting to infuse $40 million over the next 4 years, and the stuff that's coming out of it, the fact that they're even having these meetings with boosters, and the stuff that's coming out of these meetings, and the parameters that they're looking for a coaching search. And I'll make this clear too, like, we're going to work our ass off doing this because this is our job, and I have issues mentally where I can't stop working and can't stop doing this stuff and can't stop calling people. So I have to do it, like, to satisfy my own inner issues. It's not just for y'all, it's also for me. But, we're going to put all that work in, but, and I feel like we put out a pretty good bit of stuff. But there was one thing on the last show that I said, and I made the point that I couldn't say why, because it would expose somebody. But I felt like, well, maybe these people would enjoy if I could at least tell them the aftershock of this incident. And I'm talking about the vibe change where a person who knows what's going on is saying he felt like Arkansas had their man because of this certain thing that happened. And then something shifted the other way a few days later. And he's like, I'm not sure that they do have their guy. And of course, not long after that, the Franklin stuff. And people are like, oh, it's Trey Biddy. Trey Biddy, I know, but I can't tell you. Trey doesn't know anything and all this stuff. Like, I'm thankful for my website because I don't have to deal with that kind of stuff because people know, they've been around the block with us and they know what we provide. But it's frustrating in a good way. Like, I like that. It would be super boring if we just had, like, everybody's happy, everybody's praising you and stuff. So, and I have to remember that, I'm not always not everybody's dealing with an IQ above 100. And I understand that. And I have to remember that kind of stuff. But I do like the back and forth a little bit, but I couldn't share everything. So I don't know. Do you guys not want me to share, even if it's partial information? Like, people who do much more important work than what we're doing, and it's important to us, but like, I'm talking like nationally important stuff, like reporters go to jail because they won't reveal their sources. So I'm not going to do something. I hadn't been in this business for 23 years when I've seen a lot of people come and go. I hadn't been in this business that long by burning sources, but a lot of times they'll give me information that I can't share, but it does help me in other avenues to relay information. So I appreciate everybody understanding why I can't just like burn somebody and just like, hey, please don't say this, it would expose me. And I'm just like, well, I'm going to say it. That would be pretty stupid, wouldn't it? Anyway, rant over. Sign up at HawgSports. Let's talk a little bit real quick. I'm going to touch on basketball real quick because that Winthrop game was crazy. To win that game by 1 point, and like, man, there's nobody in Bud Walton Arena. Like, I get it, and that's how it's been. Like, I'm wondering how much of this is like, all the companies and stuff and the businesses that are paying like $40,000 and, upwards of to get these seats, and then just having people not go versus we used to have fans in those. Like, I got a buddy who paid $40,000, him and another buddy, which was double the donation that they paid before. And they got moved up and over when they had pretty sweet seats before. And he was just like, man, I can't imagine those people paying $20,000 and just getting bumped out of what was pretty good seats before to really, there's not awful seats in there, but you know what I mean. So I don't know if that's playing a part in the attendance or not, but Arkansas winning 84-83. I'm going to let Cal. So this is a Cal cut. This is not a straight set of quotes. This is a minute clip of the best stuff he said because Cal says some great stuff. He's very entertaining, obviously. So here real quick is what Calipari had to say after the Winthrop game.
We have guys that do not think you have to speak. They just point, leaving the bench. You don't know that? You don't know that. Well, thank God they left the bench too. Malik Thomas kept us in it, and then what'd he do? Bag of tricks, stolen layup. What? And then a quick three, no chance of going in. You're going to dance with it. They're going to come up and mush you. I've been on him about messing with the basketball. You're going to get it ripped, and they're going to dunk, and we're going to lose the game because of it. I'm prophetic, Grammy. Like, they're not afraid. They're coming in, push them, shove them, go rebound. They're not going to rebound on you if you're bodying them. We may go back to how you guys grew up, if any of you really ever played basketball, where you had to pass it 5 times before you shoot it. You all that do that? I think we're going to do that. 8th grade. We're going to go 8th grade. Just can't push. Just leave it alone. But we had 19 guys on the court. They had 17 guys on the court. Like I told them, at some point we got to start playing better.
I had to go back. The reason I was a minute or two late is because I had to go back and take that word out from Cal so I can check the box that there's no language in this video on YouTube and on the podcast. So anyway, Arkansas basketball, interesting. And somebody's forgotten that I have a show right now. But Arkansas basketball, a tough win, really. I mean, a tough win against Winthrop. Jackson State up next. That's at 7 o'clock. SEC Network. This is the last one. This is Friday, November 21st. It's the last one before they face Duke at 7 o'clock from the United Center in Chicago on CBS. It's a big one. One more game to get whatever it is figured out, whether it's passing 5 times, playing 8th grade basketball, whatever they got to do. But it would be nice to see a nice outing from them. Of course, I'll be watching that, I guess, from Austin. I fly out on Friday afternoon, so I'll be watching that from Austin. Like I said, I signed up for something this year. I didn't know what it was going to be. I'd made the point that I was like, Arkansas is either going to go 4-8 or 8-4. Doesn't look like they're going to go 4-8 even. It doesn't look like they're going to even win 4 games. But the reason I had that big gap, and I remember I was speaking to the Fort Smith Razorback Club, I was like, they're going to go 4-8 or 8-4, and everybody's like, that didn't make any sense, Trey. He's like, well, I mean, if they're on the path to 4-8, they're going to fire Sam Pittman in the middle of the year, and you're going to have a let go of the rope type of situation. And, but if they start off strong, those first games, I always feel like those first games matter so much in terms of how any team is going to perform. Like if Ole Miss had lost that first game, I'm not sure that they're on this 11-1 path. If they'd have lost that first game, I think things change because you have so many new players who don't have that deep-rooted history with each other and that understanding. They're, a lot of hired mercenaries, and they want to feel like the coach that they have is like putting them on the right path. And if you win games, then, I think it builds that momentum a little bit differently. So I think that's important. And if Arkansas wins that Ole Miss game, I'm not so sure the season is gone how it's gone right now. I'm just saying. I don't think that they had that huge letdown against Memphis. They definitely don't have a total collapse against Notre Dame either. Coaching search, hot board. Let's go over this real quick. So we've got a lot of names on there. The latest stuff, several reports now that Gus Malzahn has been interviewed. I've heard John Sumrall has at least had a phone call with Arkansas. I've heard Alex Golish hasn't been offered the job, but is very interested in the job. But I heard he has not been offered. At 100 Eurocheck, just a few tidbits at 100 Eurocheck's meeting on Wednesday. This was a noon meeting on Wednesday. This is the third one that I'm aware of that he had with influential boosters. And this is a different group. Each time it's a different group of people. I think maybe some of the same people, but overall, different groups. But some of the last stuff from what I'm told out of that is, going from like a pool of a final 8 more to a pool of a final 3 now. So looking like 3 people. I'm real interested to see what this James Franklin contract is, because the stuff that's going around right now with James Franklin in Arkansas is, I know that Arkansas made contact. I know that he was asking around about Arkansas. I know they were putting a package together, but I hear that there was a difference in what James Franklin and his representation, Jimmy Sexton, felt his value was and what Arkansas felt his value was. And I heard some other things, that may have caused them to kind of split a little bit aside from that. But I'm interested to see what this Virginia Tech contract is. We know it's 5 years. We just don't know the details. We don't know the prices of it. We know that he had some negotiations, obviously, with Penn State for an immediate $9 million payout, and then I guess that was it to drop the rest of it, but because it all would have been offset with this new contract also. So some interesting stuff coming out of that meeting. I think that's the main thing, that maybe moving to down to 3 candidates. He has interviewed a ton of people, and it's not just Yurchek. It's like 5 people, like Ed Fryer and Kevin Scanlon, and somebody. It's basically like a group, like Booster, Stevens guy, representative from the University of Arkansas, representative from the Board of Trustees, that kind of stuff. These guys are all involved in this interviewing process, and which is important to have. It's just important from your check standpoint that there's some tight-lipped stuff going on. But, Jeff Long would kind of do these interviews, at least is my understanding, pretty much as a lone wolf. And, it's important to have like a coaching search committee, to hire a coaching search firm. It's important to have that. It's important to have, other people at the inner workings of the university also working together to bounce, ideas off and to discuss this versus going lone wolf on it. And people get confused about what a coaching search firm does. It's a bad name for what they do. They're there to vet candidates. They're there to be intermediaries between, one party and the other one. They're not out there like finding your coach for you. That's not what their role is. So it's important to note that, okay? It's important to say that. I want to tell you about our friends over at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry this holiday season. Shop for a gift that'll last with Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. From exceptional diamonds and homeware to designer jewelry and timepieces from brands like David Yurman, Rolex, Tudor, Baccarat, and more. Enjoy a festive shopping experience both in-store at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers and from anywhere at BlakemansFineJewelry.com, where they also offer delivery. Make your holidays unforgettable with Blakeman's. Blakeman's is the finest jewelry store in the state of Arkansas and one of the country. There's not a lot of places. It's a brand new store over there. I suggest you go check them out over there. Really good people. I know a lot of the people that work over at Blakeman's, including Ben Blakeman. Good group of people, and a fantastic, very nice jewelry store, and should have all their holiday decor up now. So, okay. We're going to get to your questions also, primarily at HawgSports, but we'll see if there's any interesting comments as well. I'm sure there are, especially after my opening rant. But we're going to go to Kevin Bohannan first. Kevin Bohannan does a lot of good work on a lot of other outlets too. You can, he did a podcast this morning. He's on Drive Time, a lot of different stuff. He joins us on the Ozarks Go hotline, where you can reach out to them at 479-684-4900. If you're looking for fast, reliable internet service, you can also go to ozarksgo.net/hawg. That's HAWG. I've been using these guys for 4.5, almost 5 years now, and it's just steady and reliable. Like, I was a customer of theirs before they reached out. I had I think 3 other internet service providers, and none of them have allowed me to not worry about it. It just works. So go check them out. ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG. And we're proud to have a long-term relationship with Ozarks Go also, and local people, Northwest Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma. K-Bo, I like that haircut.
Yes, sir. It's my coaching search haircut. Yeah. And I love the rant, and I wanted to say maybe you can become a pitch man, since you can't cover a coaching search worth the flip now, evidently.
Yeah, it's amazing that people are surprised that I would try to I guess I could do something else, but I do think people would find a bit of a void in their Razorback coverage if I were to go. I mean, I don't mean to. I've got a lot of experience doing this, and I've luckily had a lot of connections over the years. But I think that everybody tries to earn money at the job that they do. I mean, you can't do this job. This is not a full-time job. This is a 60-hour a week type of job. And,
absolutely.
My wife knows that above anybody, and my daughter. So, K-Bo, what do you think about what's going on right now? You've seen all the stuff on HawgSports, and stuff bouncing around, the rumor mill and whatnot, which we also put out rumor mill stuff, clearly identified rumor mill, because we don't want to always be buttoned up all the time,
right,
putting out verified information. We want to have a little fun with this too. Lord knows we need it.
Yeah. So, yeah, and you mentioned some other outlets. The HawgSports brand goes strong, and I was on with Tuscaloosa with Stingray, and then did a little something with Westmore this morning. And the biggest thing that I've seen is, look, no matter the misinformation that comes out, it's what am I going to go to bed to and what am I going to wake up to? It's going to be a text, a call, or something that says, oh, well, okay, so Texas is split into two parts right now. The northern part and the eastern part says Eric Morris is the next head hog. The western part over by, of course, San Antonio. And then the panhandle is like, oh, it's Jeff Traylor. This all comes from, verified coaches that say, yeah, it's him. It's got to be him. So what I think is Hunter Yurachek is throwing out smoke bombs left and right. I think and I say they, because when you include Kevin Scanlon, and I've always called him Coach Kevin because he was my first baseball coach back in 1985 and 86 at Junior Deputy Memorial Hospital, Go Blue and Gold. So I've always known him as Coach Kevin. And, I can't call up Coach Kevin and say, okay, man, tell me who you got. Give me the goods. No, I'm not there. I'm not that guy. So we protect our sources just like anybody else out there. It's about journalistic integrity. But I think they have a coach. I do. I think that they keep floating out a name ever so often. Pat Fitzgerald, Gus Malzahn this past Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a complete done deal? I don't think so. I think they still have, some hurdles to jump through, maybe some details to go over, and they don't want to, put this coach at jeopardy because he is a sitting head coach, and they don't want to ruin the rest of his season.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
That's important to note also, Kevin, that, you're going to hear stuff, and we've reported stuff. There have been G5 coaches, coordinators, people out of coaching that have interviewed, for this job, right? What you don't hear is anything about a sitting Power 4 coach, because, it's one thing like for a G5 coach to interview for the Arkansas job, like that's assumed. But for a coach at a sitting Power 4 school to interview for another job, or to be at least in conversation, whether you want to call it an interview or not, some guys are above interviewing, I guess. But you're not going to hear that because it's going to cause all kinds of chaos, within that. So, although, there's all the stuff about Lane Kiffin's family members going to Gainesville and Baton Rouge. I wonder when they went, I like Baton Rouge.
Taking the world tour.
The food's good and everything. But if you're leaving like Oxford or Fayetteville or something, you go to Baton Rouge, you just be like, holy crap, this is a dump.
Oh.
Baton Rouge is not. It's like you got to appreciate what Baton Rouge is, but it is not Gainesville, Florida, or Oxford or Fayetteville,
No. Yeah,
or even Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa is not that great.
Starkville and Baton Rouge are kind of.
I'd take Starkville. Yeah, I'd take Starkville.
I mean, it's come a long way.
Again, as far as feeling like I could walk around safe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't feel that about Baton Rouge. I don't feel like I could just walk around.
Yeah, it's not quite East St. Louis, but it's almost there. So
yeah, I don't mean because I love that trip. I love going to Baton Rouge. It's a little grittier than most SEC towns.
Different
yeah, and I do. That kind of goes along. Like if they're down to three, as Hunter is projecting.
Down to 1. Yeah,
I think that there's definitely a firm chance they're down to 1 with a couple of safety nets, because the way this works, we do all this legwork and all this stuff to guide people along with what's actually happening in this search. But it's going to come down to, once this is approved through the Board of Trustees and everything's signed and stuff, immediately that agent is going to tell whoever, national, McMurphy or somebody at CBS or ESPN, they're going to say, hey, my guy's done. You can go ahead and report this. And they're going to put it out. They're sitting around just waiting for a phone call. We're doing all the stuff that leads up, to it. But, so-and-so agent isn't going to call me and say this. Now, we've broken stuff plenty of times.
Right,
Arkansas, actually, I would say more often than is normal, have broken coaching search news, because I know that I did Morris. I did Pittman. I think maybe Mike and maybe somebody else was kind of simultaneous on that one. I broke that Pelfrey was getting fired. I broke that Anderson was getting fired. West broke that Calipari was getting hired. That doesn't usually happen in most markets. Usually, people are doing all the work. The Virginia Tech guys did a great job of guiding everybody along, but it wasn't them that broke that story, You know what I mean? So it's generally, I don't expect to like break the story. I expect to do all the work that, kind of leads us to where, okay, this is where, how things are playing out. And also, the things about the efforts to get the football program in a better place. I think that's an important story to write, that they're working to infuse more money into the program, trying to get creative, trying to come up with things for long term, which we may have some more, discussion on that later, to keep it more sustainable long term, so you don't deal with so much donor fatigue and stuff like that, booster fatigue, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, what do you think about this game coming up, Kevin?
Yeah, it'll be close. There is a reason a 2-8 team is not a double-digit dog on the road.
Mm-hmm.
That was, one of my 5 burning questions was, can Arkansas continue playing well on the road? And, if you look at the losses that they've had a pair of 1-point setbacks. And then, of course, they went to Tennessee, played well, lost by 3. And Ole Miss earlier in the season lost by 6. So of the 4 losses, you're looking at a grand total of 10, 11 points right there. So those 12 points make it a different season. I don't see anything different. This is not a great Texas team. The offensive line is porous. The defensive line for Arkansas has played well the last 2 games, and they'll have a chance with Cam Ball and Quincy Rhodes getting double teamed. It's going to allow other guys to make plays. But at the end of the day, Taylor Green is going to have to read some complicated coverages. They mix coverages better than anybody that I've seen so far. They're up there with DJ Durkin and Auburn's defense in terms of how they mix their zone and man and combo coverages on right and left, boundary, field side. So they're going to have to make some smart decisions, offensively. And as always, hang on to the football.
Yep. All right, Kevin. An abbreviated segment. We didn't get into really of our 5 burning questions and whatnot, but everybody can read that at HawgSports, and they can follow Kevin at Cabo Baseball Guru on X. Does a great job over there at HawgSports. Appreciate you, Cabo.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy. See you.
All right. See you later, Kevin. All right, everybody. That's Kevin Bohannan. I'd like to take a moment and tell you about our friends over at Walker Brothers. I'm not wearing a Walker Brothers today. I'm sporting my 24/7 sports gear, but I have been wearing some of the gear that I get over there. I really like the Faraday brand. I like their Johnny O, their Peter Millar, just a lot of great stuff. And especially if you're like ready to start dressing like a grown up, and you probably should be. You're probably that age. They've got the freshman experience, I think, is a cool package where you can get decked out in, just some really nice clothes in different packages. They'll set you up, pair you up. I was in there the other day, and they've got, clothes down. They're like pairing me with a sweater and a quarter zip and a shirt to wear under and all that kind of stuff. But Walker Brothers does bring you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously fitted suit to the perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6 in Fayetteville, or at their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. People don't look out for men. We don't say that we like to be looked out for. We like to take care of ourselves, but it is nice when somebody takes, the initiative and looks out for you, and that's what Walker Brothers does for fine men's wear. Okay, I want to bring in our guy, Eric Henry, who does a great job covering the Texas Longhorns. If I can bring up the graphic over here, where are we at? Where are we at, buddy? There we go. What's up? How you doing, Eric?
Trey, how's it going, my man? Doing all right.
Doing good. Looking forward to getting down to Austin. Hey, I want to get you with this one first because I know we got a lot of – I've had some, Arkansas fans hit me up saying, hey, I'm going to be in Austin. Let's get together and stuff. Where should Arkansas fans go? It's been a number of years since I've been to Austin, obviously, because Arkansas hadn't played there in a while. But I don't know I know you've been on the beat like 3 years or so, but what's different about Austin over the last decade or so? And what do we need to check out? Where do we need to go eat?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing when you talk to Austinites or you talk to people who've been around Austin for the better part of the last 10, 15 years, they all talk about the growth and development, right? So if you've not been to Austin in a while, I mean, you're going to notice a city that, quite frankly, is a whole city. It is no longer a college town. So that is the first thing you will notice. But outside of that, Trey, there are a lot of great places to eat. And I'll say this, and again, I think maybe it's changed a little bit if you haven't been here in a decade or a decade and change. I think because of the growth of the city, you see a lot more. I don't want to say chains because that comes off the wrong way, but I think more of those, hoity-toity, some of those corporate kind of establishments, right? But you still have, your Matt's El Rancho, your Terry Black's, all the barbecue joints that have existed for a while. You still have those. So I'll just recommend a couple of spots. As I said, Matt's El Rancho, Terry Black's, those are your staples. There's a spot called Whip My Soul. Now, granted, it's not, it's about 20 minutes outside of downtown. However, in terms of food, I mean, well worth the trip. So highly recommend if you're able to, if you got a little time, if you get in, early Friday and you got some time, Whip My Soul, probably some of the best soul food you will get. And I know, being in Arkansas, right, you're more than equipped to speak to those the kind of the cuisine there, right? Me being a Floridian. Take for what it's worth, right? But definitely highly recommend all three of those establishments.
Eric Henry joining us again. You can check out his content at Horns 24/7. I'm sure there are a lot of Texas fans checking out this podcast. What's the latest right now with Texas and the injury report?
Yeah, the injury report, the SEC availability report.
Availability. That's important distinction,
right? We
always say injury report on our stuff because people don't click on availability. They want to know injury. But yes, Correct. It is the availability report. That's an important distinction.
For SEO purposes, no one is Googling availability report, right? They're Googling injury report. But to your question, Trey, our own Chip Brown of Horns 24/7 reported that Anthony Hill Jr., Texas starting middle linebacker, leads the team in tackles, will miss Saturday's game. When the availability report came out, he is listed as questionable. When we spoke with Steve Sarkisian during his Thursday Zoom availability, he said that Anthony has practiced in a limited capacity and will likely be listed as questionable today. But it's interesting, it's a hand injury. Can you club it and play, right? I mean, I think a guy like Anthony Hill, you take a look at his skill set, someone who's very adept at rushing the passer, is second on this team in tackles for loss and sacks. He certainly provides, value there. He's also improved, Trey, in coverage. But of course, if he's playing with the club, and it just seemed to assume that if it's a hand injury that's been as serious as reported, he would have to club it in some form or fashion. Probably not going to see much of him there. I think, right now, the player who would replace him is Ty Anthony Smith, a rising sophomore. But Ty Anthony, at this point in his career, Trey, to give you a little background on him, kid out of Jasper, Texas. I mean, he is a physical-minded player, just doesn't have the body to fit it. He was a linebacker who came in at 6'1", $185, $190, is now at about 210, right? Certainly a far cry from Anthony Hill's 6'3", 238. But outside of A. Hill, Ryan Wingo, wide receiver, Texas's wide receiver one is listed as probable. Of course, had the thumb injury against Vandy and played last week.
I always think your hands are so important. It's one of the most underrated thing in sports is just big, massive, strong hands. Like clubbing it just seems I don't understand how that works. I never had to do that in high school or anything, but it just seems like it would be really limiting. Texas has been really up and down this year. It's been a different year than I think we expected. That loss at Florida, I think, jumps out. 2 overtime games against Kentucky and Mississippi State, 2 teams that you would think that Texas kind of outclasses. A pretty significant loss at, obviously Georgia's good, but a loss there. What have you made of this team and just kind of the up and down nature? I mean, with all that said, it wouldn't be up and down unless you had like a 23-6 win over Oklahoma, or that win over Vanderbilt, for example.
Yeah, you talk about kind of the seesaw nature of this team through 10 weeks. The biggest thing, Trey, that I think is the culprit for that, right? And then, I won't belabor some of the issues they've had at each position. Maybe we can get into that a little bit later. But I think we just take a 10,000-foot view. It's the lack of veterans on this team, right? This is a much younger team than they've had in years past. We can, of course, talk about the double-digit players sent to the NFL. I believe numbers 23 draft picks over the last 2 years. what that's resulted in is a much less veteran-laden roster. While you still have some guys like DJ Campbell, a senior on the offensive line, Anthony Hill, a junior at linebacker, Michael Taff, a fifth-year player, you have a lot of guys stepping into new roles. I think because of that, Trey, you have seen some of the seesaw nature, not just in the wins and losses, but also within games where from drive to drive, seemingly, whether it's especially the offense has been a bit of a roller coaster all year, but even the defense from drive to drive, one drive they put it together and looked great. The next drive, it's like, man, this team couldn't beat an FCS team, right? I think that's probably the biggest culprit. If I had to narrow it down to one, take a broad point of view as to why this team has been up and down all year.
Arch Manning, speaking of up and down, obviously came in with a lot of hype. People talking about him like a Heisman Trophy candidate and stuff. Obviously got that last name Manning. What I thought was interesting that you had told me was just the things that are surprising coming out of the gate were some of the mechanical issues, throwing motion, footwork. Like, this is a guy that has been groomed his whole life to be a quarterback and comes out with sloppy footwork. What are your thoughts on Arch Manning and what he's been able to do this season and what he hasn't been able to do?
Trey, that was really surprising, right? And the reason that it was surprising is if this was Arch Manning's first time taking the field at Texas, this being this year, then maybe say, okay, all right, you're kind of getting a feel for the game. It's his first college action. Arch Manning did start 2 games last year. He started against Mississippi State, started against Louisiana Monroe, never exhibited the sloppy footwork or kind of the weird throwing motion, some of the mechanical issues that we saw, especially in the early part of the year. And I think you could even make the case, right? Now, I am no quarterback expert. I'm not a Kurt Warner or Dan Orlovsky or any of these guys who are on social media, Chase Daniel, et cetera. But I think you can make the case that Arch's interception against Georgia was one where it got the pass got a bit away from him, right? In terms of his intended target was DeAndre Moore. So that was surprising. That aside, the national conversation around, is Arch a bust or is he just a product of his last name, right? Those things are so hyperbolic, and I guess it's just the nature of media and kind of nature we're in right now, Trey. I said this to you in our Q&A. I know I just sent that back to you, so I'm sure it'll get up on the site today. If you were in the ground or on the ground here in Central Texas, in Austin, no one thought Arch Manning was this plug-and-play LeBron James, Victor Wembanyama type that you just put him in and all of a sudden your team is instantly better. He is, in fact, a highly talented 5-star prospect. That is real, a 5-star talent. However, we saw a quarterback during spring and during fall, especially not just with Manning being a first-time starter, but new starters at receiver, new offensive line, etc. The entire offense did look behind the defense. And I think if I had to say one thing, Trey, maybe hindsight being 2020 for those of us who report and kind of say, all right, the offense will be fine. And maybe some of the things we thought would happen that haven't happened. I think we leaned a little bit too much on, hey, Arch and the offense are facing a really good defense in practice, and maybe the defense is just getting the better of them, as opposed to, no, these are real issues that are going to take time to fix.
Mm-hmm. Let's get you out of here with this, Eric. How do you see it playing out on Saturday? And you got a score prediction.
Yeah. You talked about it when we had you on our podcast. Arkansas is a team that's played tough all year, right? They of their 5 losses, there hasn't been a ton of blowouts, right? It's all been a lot of one-score games. I do see this being a one-score game, especially if Anthony Hill cannot go. At the end of the day, and I know this is probably an answer that Arkansas fans will say, are you just making this pick for the vibes, Trey? Well, in essence, yes. I don't have anything in terms of an X's and O perspective to say Texas is going to win this game. All I have is Texas needs to win this game. I noted this on an earlier spot today. If Texas had fallen behind like they did at Mississippi State at home, they would not have won that game because the level of vitriol that would have come from the home crowded DKR Texas Memorial Stadium, they would have never recovered. However, they were on the road. They were able to rally and win the game. If they fall behind on Saturday, they will not come back because of all the questions that are swirling around this program. So because of that, I think Texas has to win this game. They will. I see it somewhere in the realm of 30-23.
All right, there it is, Eric Henry. Well, I look forward to seeing you on Saturday in Austin. Look forward to getting down there. And it's been a while, so should be an interesting trip. Appreciate you, Eric.
Anytime, Trey. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, everybody. That's Eric Henry. Does a great job over there covering Texas. I know there are Texas fans listening, so be sure to read him and Chip and the gang over there. I've known Chip Brown, of course, for a really long time. He's been in this industry for a number of years. So I'm going Texas 31, Arkansas 27. The line's 8.5, which I said 19.5 last week. So that was a ploy. That was a trick to get you to make a lot of comments correcting me. It's an old YouTube trick. I'm just kidding. I don't know what I was looking at to see 19.5, but it's I've seen it go, kind of fluctuate from 9.5 to 8.5. I saw 9, and then the latest thing I saw on Bet Saracen was 8.5. So, but I'll go 31-27 Arkansas. I think Texas could let down a little bit. I mean, obviously that was a big loss for them at Georgia. It's possible that they let down, but I think ultimately, like when Arkansas needs to get the ball back and go score a touchdown, it's going to be tough for them to take the ball away from Texas, just because that's been pretty consistent with the Arkansas defense. When at the end of games, when they've needed to get a stop at the end of a game, to prevent a victory formation and stuff, they just have not been able to do that for the most part this season. They've given the offense some opportunities. The offense has also lost plenty of games for this. I mean, like, the turnovers have been. Arkansas, guys, is last in the SEC with 18 turnovers, and they're last in the SEC with only 8 turnovers gained. So not only are they last in losing the ball, they're last in gaining the ball also, which creates a dramatically big turnover margin, which Arkansas is significantly last in also. I mean, that's just bad. Like, you want to look at why you're losing games. You're turning the ball over, penalties, turnovers, special teams, injuries, decision-making, key moments, making your opponent pay for mistakes. And Arkansas, first of all, doesn't force enough mistakes from their opponent to make them pay. But, there were 2 balls that, Arkansas defensive back could have caught last week, and they didn't. Obviously there were plenty of issues with the offense. Plenty of issues, but it's both ways with them. Arkansas has played Texas. This will be 81. This will be 81st meeting more than anybody in the SEC other than Texas A&M and Oklahoma. Texas, just quick look at them real quick. 27.6 points per game, 11th in the SEC, 10th in total offense, 370.7. Nothing outstanding with the offense. Passing offense is 7th, 246.6 yards per game. Rushing offense is 12th, 124.1 yards per game. Looking at them defensively, that's where they're a little stronger, 18.3 points per game, ranking 3rd in the SEC. Total defense is 5th in the SEC, 317.9, 12th in the SEC in pass defense, 234.7, and rushing defense is 83.2, 2nd in the SEC. Really strong rushing defense. LSU had a pretty good defense. The only team that's really just completely stopped Arkansas as far as SEC teams go is Auburn, holding them to 63 yards. That was the worst rushing performance by Arkansas. Arch Manning is 195 of 311, 2,374 yards, 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. His numbers are pretty good the last few games overall, though they get their teeth cleaned pretty good by Texas. Yeah. Okay, that's it. All right, we're going to get to your questions, but first I want to get to the Bet Saracen wager wagon. So we're going to make our picks. We've taken it on the chin the last couple of weeks, but we're going to make our picks right after these messages.
Arkansas's Fab Five for Bet Saracen.
Dude, you ever bet on bowling?
Only if I'm in the tournament.
So you bet on the other team, right?
Hey, this aggression will not stand, man.
Who's gonna lock for Sunday? I need to bring home the bacon.
Not sure about you, but I take comfort knowing those dudes make their plays on Bet Saracen.
Arkansas's favorite sports betting app.
Who is that guy?
It's been a disaster the last couple of weeks. The last few weeks. I mean, we are 4-8-1 the last 3 weeks. Is that right? Good Lord. No, the last 2 weeks. Excuse me. We went 4-1 week 11. Last week went 1-4. So, and the week before that we were 1-4. The week before that, 1-4-1. And the week before that we were 1-3. Started off incredibly strong. I mean, out of the gate we're 24-15-2, and now we are 31-27-3 overall. So we got to get back in the win column, and we're taking The underdogs this week, we're taking 4 games. There's 4 games that match SEC teams versus SEC teams. We're going to take Arkansas at plus 8.5 at Texas. I think there's a definitely possibility that Arkansas is just like, okay, all right, this is enough. Let's just get this season over with and end it. And let's go the rope again. I think that's entirely possible. So far, they have not done that under Petrino. They've just below whatever the opponent is. I would expect that, I guess, to happen against Texas. They're plus 8.5. Texas could have a bit of a letdown. So I'm going Texas 31, Arkansas 27. I'm taking Florida plus 4 against Tennessee. Florida has been very difficult to read. You know, they had the Kentucky loss. They lost 38-7 to Kentucky, and then they come back and lose, 34-24 to Ole Miss. And the Georgia game was 10 points, or 4 points. The Georgia game was 4 points, 24-20. So they're capable of it. They have it in them. But I'm going to take Florida. I don't know. Maybe I'm going against my gut a little bit. I'm definitely going against my gut against Missouri, because every time I think Missouri is something, like, I think they should not be a good football program, and they've been a pretty good football program. They don't think Eli Drinkwitz, anything about him says that he should be a good coach, and he's been a pretty good coach. They haven't been able to beat ranked teams, and I don't think that they're going to beat Oklahoma, because Oklahoma has everything to play for in this game. So I don't think they're going to beat them, but I could definitely see them giving them a run for their money, and they're at plus 7.5. So I'm going to take the Missouri Tigers against Oklahoma, but losing. And then Kentucky and Vanderbilt. I mean, Kentucky also very hard to figure out. They play some teams tough, and then they look like they've just kind of quit, but they're plus 8.5 against Vanderbilt. So I'm going to take Kentucky. So we're taking all the underdogs, even though I don't think any of them are going to win. But I think you could be surprised by Florida. Maybe that's possible. I mean, these teams have all showed that they can do it, but they've just been woefully inconsistent. So kind of going a little bit maybe against the gut on some of those picks. So anyway, Bet Saracen is Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. So sign up. If you sign up at Bet Saracen and use the promo code BIDDY125, capital B, lowercase IDDY 125, then they're going to give you $125 back in bonuses for a $25 bet for your first $25 bet. So sign up at Bet Saracen. Use that promo code. There's a link below you can click. You click that link below and sign up, and you'll get that offer. I'm sure there's some interesting comments. I'm going to peruse them real quick. How much NIL did Tyson offer guests? I've heard Tyson, I'd heard early on that they were, making a presentation to John Tyson about signing up and about being that kind of backstop type of thing. But I'd heard maybe that was maybe a little bit premature, actually, that he's so invested in some other sports that maybe not for football. But they've got a lot of other people that are involved. There's a lot of people out there, aside from the household names that you hear, that give a ton of money to the University of Arkansas. And a lot of those people I've heard, oh, I'm doubling my donation this year. I just want to win. I'm 60 years old, 65 years old. I've heard a lot of that kind of stuff. So there are a lot of people like that are, pushing that. And they've got to figure out a way to sustain this, so you don't have so much fatigue with the donors and stuff. This person asked about where's the link for HawgSports. There's a link below, but you can just go to HawgSports.com and you can sign up at HawgSports there. Go check out what we've got there. Appreciate you asking there, Collier Bush. Man, just get the guy the boosters get behind. That's the main thing with the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have boosters involved in this, and there absolutely are. You're going to have to, you have to have that support from boosters. Again, one of the most important things, the coach matters. I've seen people say stuff like the coach doesn't matter. Arkansas is always going to be this. I've just resigned to the fact, and it hurts my soul when people say that. People are like, I'm just resigned to the fact that we're never going to be any good. We're never going to do this. It doesn't matter who the coach is going to be. Well, I would say, go tell Alabama that they should have just held on to Mike Shula, because it didn't matter if they hired Nick Saban. Or go tell Georgia that they should have just held on to Mark Richt. The X's and the O's, it's the Jimmys and the Joes. Complete falsehood. It is both. It's the X's and the O's and the Jimmys and the Joes. It's both of them. And, the guy with the X's and the O's is also bringing in the Jimmies and the Joes. One of the advantages you would have with a coaching search, hiring a guy on the Power 4 level, is he's going to bring some people with him. These coaches are now like packages in a way. If you hire a coordinator, you might get some guys that aren't playing at that school, some guys that are young or up and comer, type of guys, but you're not going to get, their starters from them. The offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator is not going to go just like raid, the head coach's roster from him. That's not going to happen. So that's important to note. Like you go G5, you might get some guys that have got some experience and stuff. There's been talk about Eric Morris and, his quarterback and his running back, both freshmen doing pretty good stuff. Wouldn't mind seeing those guys, So that's something I think that's important to consider also. Brian Arnold says he hopes the Mullen deal is fine and this is all smoke. I mean, Mullen came out early and said 0.0 interest. Like that alone, I would have been like, yeah, okay, coaches say that all the time. But then he said, like, you guys need to hire Gus Malzahn. Like that part was just like, okay, maybe he is out. Anyway, PAIH Fui says, man, just get the guy. Oh, yeah, I read that. And Fui says here again, Trey, you know better than to listen to some folks, LOL. I like that, though. I do like getting, like I like mixing it up with people. I like mixing it up with the fan. I've always liked that. Like, that's what I consider myself, in part. Like, I've long since ditched the idea that I have to be this impartial journalist who doesn't care if Arkansas wins or not, because I grew up in the state of Arkansas. I used to lay there in bed, like watching the game on my TV in my room, like I'm in high school in Arkansas, start doing something good. This is the 90s. And I just freeze. Like, if things are going well, how still can I stay? Don't open my door, don't come in. Don't move. Why would you leave this seat and go to that seat? Like I've been there. Yelling at my TV, making an ass out of myself in that Florida game back in, what was that, 2009? I mean, in front of my whole family, just like, I was so mad that Malcolm Shepard hit. I talked to somebody the other day, actually. Who knows Malcolm? But anyway, yeah, I've been there. Like, I went to the University of Arkansas. Like, I'm supposed to pretend that I didn't storm the field in 99. Like, I'm supposed to act like that didn't happen against Tennessee, and I don't care. I just think that's ridiculous. And people, you're going to tell me you turn on, again, the important stuff, like you turn on CNN or Fox News, and there's not any bias with those two networks. Like, those are the people that are really supposed to not be biased, and they're clearly, I mean, you can't even trust anything. So I'm covering sports here. It's supposed to have fun. And I like mixing it up with people in the comments. I don't care. People like, just leave, don't let that get under your skin. Don't worry about it. I kind of want it under my skin. That's where I kind of want it under my skin a little bit. I don't mind. It's fun to me. I like having a range of emotions, I like being happy, and I don't like being sad, I don't guess, but I don't mind letting my anger out because I've got some of it, I'm talking to somebody. Yeah. I'm talking to somebody about it. I appreciate everybody, with the kind responses. I really do. But again, I don't mind seeing the negative ones from time to time. I'm not going to read what you said, Big Salty. Brandon Oliver says, why did the BOT allow Eurotech to make the hire? Absolutely baffled by this. I mean, there's a lot of people involved, but it's Eurotech's call. And he is the athletic director. As the athletic director, you get 2 opportunities to hire a football coach. 2 opportunities. And he messed up the first one, and now he's got one more. And he can't mess this one up. And he knows that he can't. So the BOT has been largely supportive. I do think that minimum 8, but maybe as many as 9 or so. You're not going to have everybody, but I do think the vast majority of the Board of Trustees is behind Eurotech right now. Muscus Muskrat, bullying people into buying clothes. Nice. How's that bullying people? How's that bullying people? It's just something my wife tells me all the time. She used to tell me, she's like, you're 40 years old. Maybe it's time to start dressing like a grown up, I don't see how that's bullying people. I think that's sound advice for people, Muscus. Hunter Julius term, this is the good stuff. That's what you took out of that. That's what you took out of that. Muscus, ditch your jorts. Ditch your jorts and, maybe go shop for some decent pants. Hunter Julius Trum says, how would you Hog fans take on Coach O as an O-line recruiting coach, talent developer guy? How would you Hog fans take on Coach O? What? He's a defensive guy, though. He clearly wants to get back into coaching. I got some argument. Lance guy on Drive Time the other day was like, I'm not going to stand here while you trash Ed Orgeron. All I said was Ed Orgeron, and this comes from pretty, well-knowing people that that stuff was going around, that Ed Orgeron was in consideration, and they just told me flat out, like, look, Ed Orgeron's not in consideration, not even contacted. So I said that, and he's like, why are you hating on Ed Orgeron? I'm just reporting the stuff that's out there, man. Hunter Julius Trum says, I just say O-line coach or something like that because he has quite an interesting rap as a head coach, to say the least. Ronnie Wells says, who's the next head coach? That was another thing. People I don't think you know who the head coach is going to be. Well, until maybe recently, I don't think that Hunter Yurchek knew for sure who the head coach is going to be. So how would I know? How would I know that? It's amazing how people, things people read. I'd posted this one thing on our board about, all this big long update on stuff. And one of the things I put was take it with a grain of salt on this part, because this is kind of a rumor mill type thing. We put some rumor mill stuff out there. We just identify it. It's like, take it with a grain of salt. Because that's an old saying that we had, to my knowledge, originated on the Razor's Edge on our HawgSports message board decades ago, with somebody, said it wrong, or, somebody said this is mind-boggling, little stuff like that where people get it wrong. It's not mind-boggling, it's mind-boggling. Somebody said one time with a grain of salt, and so I always thought that came from our site, and I put it, in italics. And the next thing I know, somebody has deciphered this grain of salt thing, because when you search Google, the first thing that comes up on grain of salt, you click on it, takes you to a Clemson message board where they're talking about greatest law and defining what greatest law means. And he's like, oh, Trey just dropped a huge hint, Dabo Sweeney. I just let it go. I was like, okay, whatever. It's Dabo. Have some fun with it, Let's see. Elmer Fuddpucker says, Chuck Barrett said one thing true, Arkansas football job for coaches on their way up the ladder, for the coaches on the downside, up-and-comer or some retread. I do think that you need to find somebody that's entering, as Frank Boys used to say, entering the best years of his coaching life, the best 10 years. That's what you want out of them, ideally. So I have heard Chuck, and I respect Chuck, obviously he's been in this a long time, but I've heard him kind of say, and Bo say that they were never, that Franklin was never an option, but that is not what I have gotten at all. Not an option as of last week. And I started hearing that more and more get pushed out, that Franklin's not, and that's fine. But I know that James Franklin was asking, I don't want to keep going down that road. James Franklin's not the coach at Arkansas. I don't know why I'm keep combating that, but anyway. Bobby says, can't believe Trey won't go to jail for his sources. I will go to jail for my sources. I'm not going to burn anybody. I'm not going to ruin somebody, what they've got going. Okay. We got a lot of comments in here. Okay. All right. Appreciate everybody for the comments and stuff. All right. I'm going to go over to our message board, HawgSports, and read the questions that I want to answer on here. I don't want to give everything away what we got. Again, sign up at HawgSports, 2 months for $1. 2 months for $1, guys. Like, if you like what we do on this show, if you like the drive time stuff, all the stuff we do for free, this is where our best stuff is. I want to make it easy for people, and I think we've done that. We've, again, in the thousands now, sign up at HawgSports under our 2 promotions, the 75% off, which we're not doing right now, but we're doing the 2 months for $1. Want to give people different options to sign up for. Like, do you want it? You want the year? Okay, great. $30 for the whole year. It's a great deal. 2 months for $1. And again, working our ass off, like, constantly, like, not even taking care of myself sometimes. Hogtalica says, Trey, I know it's expected that Petrino is out of the race in Arkansas for the Arkansas head coaching job. I think he is. I mean, I just feel like they needed to do more, especially offensively. Not that they don't put up a bunch of yards or have a bunch of explosive plays, just like in the moment when you got to go win the game, it just hasn't happened for them. And guys, I think honestly, it's a lot of that's not so much Petrino as is Talon, and Talon does some really good things that keep him in games. But man, and he missed his moment. He missed his moment against Ole Miss, driving them down the field with a chance to win. He missed his moment against Memphis. But like, when has Talon led them to like a game-winning drive or something? I mean, he's put them in position a few times, obviously, but like, when have they had like a game? They haven't done it this year. You know what I mean? Like, in the game's on the line, it's the final drive, you got to go down and win, It just hadn't happened. I don't think that's necessarily Petrino as much as, and so much of this is the quarterback. Like, people give Brian Kelly a hard time about the job that he did at LSU. I don't think Brian Kelly had a dynamic quarterback. I don't think Nussmeier was dynamic for him last year. I think when he did, he had, 110. What did he win, 11 in one year? But he won 10. I know maybe both of those years. But that makes a difference, your quarterback. It makes such a difference. It really does. The head coach, the quarterback make such a difference. And really, from there, it's like everything else. Like, do you have dynamic playmakers? Do you have a line that can protect you? All of those things are important. But also, like, for Arkansas, like, I just think that you got to have a coach that gets those little things right. So you have to have a team that, to have success at Arkansas, wins in special teams, has a really strong special teams unit, and Arkansas hasn't had that. You got to have a quarterback. Above anything else, you got to have that guy, a stud, playmaker type, a quarterback. You got to win at the small things. Penalties. You cannot be just a high penalty team, especially on defense. Like, on offense, maybe you have an offense that's explosive enough where you can overcome a lot of that stuff. And Petrino's talked about that back when he was here before. We got the offense, we can overcome that. So yeah, but don't make penalties on defense. Like, that costs you big time. Penalties, turnovers. Good Lord, guys. Like, yeah, Arkansas's 2-8, 8 forced turnovers this year, 18 giveaways. You're going to have a 2-8 type of season with those kind of turnovers numbers. You just are. Penalties, turnovers, special teams. Getting lucky in the injury department matters. But if you're not a good penalties, turnovers, special teams type of team, odds are at Arkansas, you're not going to be very good. I mean, look at the offense. Look at the numbers on offense. They're exceptional. Big numbers on paper for offense. Penalties, turnovers, special teams. How are they in that? How are they in those categories? Making their opponent pay for their mistakes. Decision-making in key moments. What if Arkansas kicks a field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 1 at the goal line? They lose a 23-22 game. What if they get a field goal there? Decision-making in key moments. Used to be in the 90s, like, I'm watching America's Team, Dallas Cowboys stuff, on Netflix. It's not bad. I've enjoyed it. I don't like it as much as like The Last Dance, because I was a Bulls fan and everything. And not that I'm not a Cowboys, follower. I pay attention to what's going on with the Cowboys. In the 90s, I like the Cowboys just because bandwagon and everything. Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson, Arkansas guys and everything, whatever. But, I'm watching that, and the idea of going for it on a 4th and 1 just seemed like, back in those days, how could you go for it? What are you, an idiot? You went for it on 4th down? Foolish. Now it's like tush push. The brotherly, what is it? The brotherly shove. A no-go says T Bizzle, gun to your head. See, we can. I don't know if we could say gun to your head. You would say like water gun to your head, But we're also super sensitive about everything, and I understand with stuff like that. But I still call it the Red River Shootout, not the Red River Rivalry for Texas and Oklahoma. Anyway, beside the point. Bobby Petrino with $20 million in NIL or Nick Saban, but the players are eating ramen. You got to get some protein, I guess. Denver Hart 1121 says, tried to ask last week about the situation with money you said was trying to be raised around the time we were going after James Franklin. Did they come up with that 40? I have heard that they are in that direction, whether they have the 40 million commitment over the next 4 years or whether they can get the 10 million behind them for this year. What I hear is that they're moving forward with that game plan. Any news on NIL funding? NIL funding needs to get boosted always. It's a bottomless pit. It's a bottomless pit. You're just always asking for money for NIL. They got to get something where it's just more steady and reliable versus just constantly asking and asking and asking. Especially big money people just need more comment. I mean, I hate saying that, but it's true. Like, the fans are the only people being asked to give. Everybody else is taking, So it's difficult to say that to fans. It's like, you got to give money. Like, they need common fans to chip in and give money. They need big money boosters. They need companies. It's kind of like the thing that everybody's talking. Like Eli Drinkwitz is talking about it. Kenny Dillingham, which there are a lot of people out there that are saying, I think it's Kenny Dillingham. There are a lot of people saying, I think it's Eric Morris. There are a lot of people that saying it's Mullen, and it's a big smoke screen the whole time, or it's Golish or Sumrall, or, everybody's kind of got a deal out there. There's, they're saying, with Eric Morris, I'm not against Eric Morris. Like, I've seen a lot of people, like, it's amazing some of the stuff that people come up with, like, we don't need another Morris. Like, they're not even related. Or, what's another one that people have said with Lashley when he was in the picture? He's not anymore, obviously, but when he was in the picture, it was just kind of like, you don't need another guy from SMU. I know that. Kind of sounds like people from Hoosiers now. Well, zone defense is the only thing that's worked in the past and the only thing that'll work this year. Big DC 77. Trey, do you think it will be leaked Sunday about our next hire by our national media guys? I mean, it's possible. It's going to leak when this thing gets to the BOT for approval, because it's got to get approved. Okay? You can't just be like, it's got to go to them. And once that happens, it's coming out. Whether it's somebody with loose lips, which there's people in there, or the agent saying, go with this. It's ready. To a national person. So I've heard a lot of talk about next week. Yes. I think if we get into this, guys, and we're like into it beyond, beyond any, like there's obviously, G5, everybody's got championship games and stuff, right? So there's possibility it could, in theory, go beyond that. Like if you got a coach in those games, So that's possible, and I'm talking like more G5 level. Like you're not hiring a coach that's in a power conference; it's in a championship game, most likely. So, but if you get beyond that week, like I would just kind of be like, "Holy crap, this is bad. This is not good." I also, because from what I hear, like there's a couple of things going around that Hunter's kind of said, and it doesn't mean like he's going to find somebody that checks every one of these boxes. But wanting somebody that has head coaching experience, either a sitting head coach or a former head coach, wanting some, and by that we'd be talking like maybe Jay Hill at BYU or Kane Womack at Alabama. But wanting, somebody with that background, wanting somebody that either played or coached in the SEC and understands the difficulties and the challenges that face you in this conference. Those are kind of some of the parameters that he seems to be looking for. But it doesn't mean like he's going to check every box. but like guys that do check that box are, Sumrall, Golish, Womack. Those are the guys that, played or coached in this conference, have been a head coach, You tend to go a different way than the guy you hired before. Somebody was talking about this, like Florida hire Sumrall. Well, would Florida go into Louisiana for another G5 coach after they just fired a G5 coach? Probably not, actually. And you look at Florida's history, who have they hired over the years from, let's see, you've got, Napier, McElwain. McElwain was a G5, but an offensive guy. Who was between them? Why can I think of this? Oh, who was between Mullen? Mullen was, from Mississippi State, an offensive guy. So you kind of went G5, Mississippi State. Ron Zook was a defensive coordinator in the NFL at the time. Steve Spurrier came from Duke. Urban Meyer came from Utah, which was a G5. It's kind of been like all over the place for Florida. It's the same way with Arkansas. Arkansas almost certainly not going offensive line coach, in his 60s. ANTI, how long we gone here? An hour and 11? Check on something real quick here. All right, we've gone an hour and 11 minutes. We'll go for a few longer. Somebody posted on here is like, what about Jumbo Fisher? I was like, is that Jimbo's much larger brother? UNC, please elaborate on Jimbo Fisher. What is that? Surely Hunter's aware that might divide the fan base even more. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to check every box with everybody. Like, there's the news about Gus Malzahn interviewing, there are a lot of people that want Gus Malzahn and have wanting nothing more than Gus Malzahn for the last 15 years or so. There's another sect that would oppose it so much that I'm not even sure they would continue following the team. Like, there are definitely, divisive things with Malzahn. Would he win more than Pittman? No question about it. But everybody has their idea of what they want in a coach. I just want somebody to win. I don't care if it's 3-0 every game. I just want to win. Like, this is ridiculous that we have had to sit through this crap with Arkansas football the last several years, going back to Bielema's last year, really the end of his fourth year to now. The end of Bielema's fourth year to now it's been crap. I mean, and we just sat there and taken it, I guess. I mean, it has been awful. There's been one decent season. Not one 9-win season. And that whole time, I mean, it's just pathetic. It's inexcusable. It's unforgivable. I don't even think we asked for a lot. What are we really asking for? Like, there are people out there that are like infuriated that their team didn't play well in a win over another SEC team. Like, pissed that they didn't play well enough in a win, which I get. I want to be like that. I want to be like that. I want to be complaining about how they won the game, not that they just keep on losing. There are people out there, fan bases, that complain like that. There are fan bases that complain over only winning 10 games. Oh, he's just never going to be more than a 10-win coach, I guess. Holy crap, man. I mean, give me some of that. Let me chew on that. Let me complain about winning 10. I wouldn't mind complaining about winning 8. I don't think it's unrealistic or I don't think it's too much to ask to go 500 in conference play. And I know we're going to a 9-game slate, so that's impossible moving forward. But I just, if the Standard's winning half your games or almost half your games every other year back and forth, is that too much to ask? And taking care of business in the non-conference and that one tough game every other year and winning your bowl game every other year? I just don't. 7, 8, 9 wins 7-8-9, 7-8-9. Every once in a while, you have that magical season, where things. I don't see how that's too much to ask. Like, I can forgive having a losing record in the first year of a coaching search. The first year of a coach. Even with this guy coming in, whoever it is, I can forgive that first year. But like after that, you should have your stuff in a row. If you're going to win, then you're going to win. Then, Memphis Hog 901 says, T. Biddy, would you prefer Morris or Womack? Do you think whoever it is would try to retain KJ Jackson? I think I would try to retain KJ. I think he has a chance to be a good quarterback for him. I think that with Womack, if he had gone the other way, if he was Alabama defensive coordinator and then like had a 10-win season at South Alabama, I think more Arkansas fans would be like, okay, that's our guy. He's from Arkansas and stuff. And I like that aspect of him. I also like Morris a lot more than it seems like everybody does. Like, the guy knows quarterbacks. The guy that he has right now is just a freshman. The guy that he has right now at quarterback did not record any passing stats in high school. They actually moved him to a different position. And then he walked on at North Texas, and Morris recruited him there. He walked on at North Texas and is a freaking stud. This guy has a cannon. This guy's really good. And the guy he had before that was Mateer. John Mateer, who's at Oklahoma now. He had him at Washington State. You know who he had before that? And nobody wanted Mateer. Nobody wanted him. Morris offered him. The guy he had before that at Incarnate Word, and then he was head coach at Incarnate Word, and then he was offensive coordinator at Washington State. You know who he brought with him from Incarnate Word that he recruited to Washington State? Cam Ward. Cam Ward went from Incarnate Word, Washington State, to Miami. Those are the quarterbacks of this guy. I mean, that seems pretty good. And what, they're 9-1 right now? I know it's not the SEC, and he doesn't have the SEC experience, but I don't hate this guy. Like, I see some people it's like, this is another Morris. I wouldn't be upset with that. I wouldn't be upset with Golish or certainly not John Sumrall, who I, kind of had a crush on, man crush, whatever, for a while since he was at Troy. I just think he's got a chance to be a really good coach somewhere. And I think that probably ends up being Auburn. But I don't hate the idea of Morris. And Yurachek is talking to these people and, with his group of committee members, and they're hashing all this stuff out. So if they get the guy that they want, and it's not just like second, third, fourth, fifth choice and stuff. If they get the guy they want, I would like to think that they have done the research and have had the time to do the research and have the support that they need to make a hire that we can be proud of and that can take Arkansas football not just up a level, but up several levels to where it is a competitive program that you wake up every weekend, every Saturday, you wake up, you got this fight song playing on your alarm, or you wake up and you just dun, 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 dun. You wake up every day thinking, damn it, they got a shot. They got a shot in this one. I feel good about it today. Feel good about it today, boys. Let's go get us a win. Like that kind of attitude that we don't have anymore. Now it's just like, they suck. It's going to go get the crap kicked out of them. Miss that a lot, actually. I miss just getting offended that somebody would dare slight the Hogs and just kind of be like, yeah, you know what? You are kind of right. You are right about that. Do suck. Frustrating. Bull. BS. Delio 55. I've never let one slip. I've come close so many times, but I think I'm clean right now. I did say something on Drive Time one day. I think I'll let something slip. Not bad for 20 years in radio. Are we past the age of developing in-state kids? We don't have to be past that. Pittman was past it because he was caught in a loop. He was caught in a loop where he had no choice but to recruit players who were developed and ready to come in and contribute because they could not spend money on high school players and afford to develop them. Like, that was a big problem. One reason that you didn't have any choice but to move on past Pittman. I hope he's doing fine and everything, but people just wouldn't support him. They just wouldn't get behind him. Lil VZ says, "Hey Trey, thanks for all your hard work. Appreciate you saying that. What's your favorite Arkansas-Texas football memory? 2021 game is hard to beat." It's definitely 2021, guys. Up until that game, the most electric game for Arkansas that I'd ever been to was that Sugar Bowl, and it was replaced by that Texas game. No question about it. That was perfect. To me, that was like, it was perfect. They beat the crap out of Texas. It was absolutely packed. That was the largest crowd in Razorback Stadium history. I do not care what they say about. They used to use estimated actual attendance, so it was basically them estimating the attendance every time. So you've got figures from back when Arkansas was a 72,000 seat stadium. So, and those numbers are bigger because they would count concessions, they would count the teams, the referees, the media, everybody that you don't count for tickets sold. So they would estimate all that stuff. And now it's just tickets sold. So you're never going to beat some of the old stadium records from that time. So like when they say, yeah, this is the 5th largest crowd in history. Well, it's a 76,000 seat stadium now, and it was a 72,000 seat stadium. You're going to tell me the 72,000 seat version would hold more than what they held for Texas? It's the largest crowd ever in Razorback Stadium history. No question. Hogtalica says, and it was a tremendous night game. It was just great. Loved that game. Hogtalica, is Arkansas athletic leadership aware just how much support Petrino still has with fans? He does. In this video, you'll look below, hire Bobby. There will be a ton of people. There'll be a ton of people that are against it, obviously, but there's still a lot of people that think, you know what, let's just keep it rolling with Bobby Petrino. And yeah, I think that there are a lot of people that that understand that support. I see a lot of anti-Petrino posts in the forums, but YouTube comments, Facebook comments have higher Petrino. Yeah, just like I was saying. And he got Nolan Richardson's endorsement. I didn't see that, did he? The Boar Room. T. Bigglesworth, what name do you think Hog fans would get behind? Not everybody's getting behind the same name. I mean, the last time I saw Hog fans really just be like, holy crap, you serious? We got Bobby Petrino. That's the last time that was like that. And for younger people that don't really remember that and understand, like, you know, what Arkansas had been through and stuff with, you know, Houston Nutt and Malzahn and all the division with the fan base, to see everybody come around going, Bobby Petrino, we got Bobby. So let's look at Bobby Petrino real quick. Bobby Petrino's record at Louisville. So the only reason Arkansas was able to get Bobby Petrino is because he took the Atlanta Falcons job. He absolutely hated it. It wasn't what he had thought it was going to be, and he wanted out and got out quick. Now, he was heavily criticized for how he left, and rightly so. I get it. But this dude at Louisville had gone 9-4, 11-1, 9-3, and 12-1 at Louisville, and parlayed that into the Atlanta Falcons job. So, like, to get a guy who is 12-1 at, then it was the Big East, which was, you know, one of the power conferences back then, not a higher end power conference, but still, you know, but to get a guy who is at another major conference school who just went 12-1 the last time you saw him, really, in the college level, and what was Petrino, like 47 or something at the time, like, that is big time. So that's the last time I've seen all Arkansas. That was a great thing to see after all the division split, and you know, Northwest Arkansas versus Central Arkansas, Malzahn versus Nutt, the Dark Pumpers and the Nut Siders. Yeah, switch that around, reverse it. To all come together and be united and excited about Bobby Petrino coming to Arkansas. It wasn't always easy that first year. You know, they struggled out of the gate. It wasn't pretty, but then you felt it coming. You felt that momentum, you know, and then by that second year, you're just like, all right, here we go. Third year, boom. Fourth year, boom. Fifth year. Where's the fifth year? What happened? All downhill after that, isn't it? Trey, any thoughts on our ability to return young O-linemen next year? Some of those guys up here really talented. I think that they have a chance, especially with linemen. I think that sometimes coaches need to realize sometimes that, skill guys have maybe a little bit more ego. I think linemen are generally more apt to stick where they are. I don't know why that is, but you're talking about Lionel Prudhomme and, Shaq McCroy and, Blake Cherry and Cash Courtney, some of those younger guys, Kavian Brassard, and I've said this before, like usually a new coach, when he comes in, he retains somebody. If I was saying like one coach that I would like to retain from the previous staff, it would be a hard time. It would be hard for me to say no to Eric Mateos out of that whole group. Defensively, obviously that staff is completely obliterated. Offensively, not that I don't think that, they've got some good coaches on offense. I just think like somebody who knows Arkansas, Mateos has been here twice. He was a GA at Arkansas, and he's been here a couple of years. I think that you've got a lot to lose by losing him because of some of the guys that he's brought in. I think he did a tremendous job for inheriting a disaster on the offensive line. Nothing short of a disaster, really. I think he's done a good job bringing in the guys that he brought in, not just starters, but the guys behind them. I mean, like you talk about Kavion Brassard, Shaq McCroy, Lionel Prudhomme, Blake Cherry, and Cash Courtney, and Kobe Branham also, There's 6 guys right there that have a future among, pretty young guys that he's brought in as backups to what, like, I wrote an article last year going like, how are they going to get this offense? Like, they've got seniors. There's nobody in the backup offensive line that is a future starter. Maybe Kobe Branham would be. At the time, he was just a true freshman, second team guy. He was the only guy you looked at and said, that guy might have a chance one day. Who knows? Everybody else is just like, there's no future starters in the backup group. What are they going to do? How are they going to bring in enough guys? That's a difficult challenge in the transfer portal to bring in. Even Mateo said it in a press conference. Like, it's difficult to tell 5 guys, like, hey, come in here. I know we got some guys coming back, but you can start. And what he did, I thought, was just tremendous, really. Is it a great offensive line right now? No. They're pretty good, though. It's a pretty good offensive line, considering they were awful 2 years ago and pretty bad last year. Slightly below average last year, I would say. But definitely below average. This year, I think they're pretty good offensive line. Not great, but pretty good, especially considering where they came from. So he would be a guy that I would look at and say, you know what, he's somebody to consider. Every coach that has come through here since I've been covering them and a little bit before that, going back to Danny Ford, has retained guys from a previous staff. Houston Up retained several guys, Who did Pittman retain? Step? Pittman retained Step, right? Morris retained Lunny. Are the Hogs out of the race for Summerall? I don't know if I'd say they're out of the race, but I think, if you were to say, like, again, like, where's Summerall going? Auburn. I'd say Auburn, and I've heard that from a long time. Don't let the asbestos glove wearing generation get you. I guess that would be the older people. Asbestos isn't bad until you start breaking it up. I'm sure there's a metaphor for that some kind of way, right? Like, I think there's some buildings like that are standing that are just full of asbestos because it costs so much to tear them down. Once you tear them down, that's when it becomes a problem. I've got a lot of asbestos in my past. I hope it doesn't come back to get me, but I know that I was around it. Trey, do you think Summerall and Morris are worth waiting the extra week or weeks for? No, I think you got to have a commitment. I think you run into a lot of danger once you get to that point. You guys, we don't know what jobs are going to come open. Somebody might have a trick up their sleeve and take somebody from a really good job, and you're just like, Now this job's open and they didn't expect to be open. You know, that can and probably will happen. Somebody's going to have some tricks up their sleeve. It's going to get so wild. It's going to be really entertaining, guys. And to be honest with you, I don't want to be a part of it if I'm Arkansas. I want to be done before all that stuff. I want to be looking and being like, wow, look at what's going on out there. While you're sitting there smoking your cigarette with your new coach. All right. Mickey Hollerhog says, what's your anticipated first question to the new coach? Obviously, could vary based on who it is, but anticipated first, regardless of who. That is a great question, Mickey. I need to really think about that, actually. It's a great question. I've not thought about it at all. Joshua 11. Holy smokes, we've gone an hour and a half. Joshua 11 says, Trey, can you give us any hope that they will get this hire right and Arkansas will be a better state in 5 years from now? I can't. Sorry. I do think that they're working to it. Trey, what are the chances for Kenny Dillingham? What have you heard? There are some people that swear that this is the direction Arkansas is going. Shout out Keith Grayson. If Arkansas gets Kenny Dillingham, then Keith Grayson's image should be etched in the north end zone. Anxious to hear that story or to tell that story. I've been talking to him, obviously. All right, last one, guys. I'm sorry I can't get to all these, but Cody Andrews says, Biddy Biddy Bum Bum, with the new pledged resources and funding, where do you realistically rank Arkansas's job among those that are currently open? LSU is the best job in the country. It's not in the best town. It's got the best resources. When you talk about access to direct talent, support, being next to Houston, having the per capita talent that they have in Louisiana. LSU, Florida, Penn State, Auburn. Am I missing somebody? Arkansas. I think Arkansas is a better job than Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech may be more appealing, and it depends on like what somebody's willing to pay also. And I'm anxious to hear what they paid for Franklin. But Virginia Tech does not have to fight that SEC schedule. And I think that's maybe intimidating for some coaches competing against that SEC schedule, and certainly don't want somebody that doesn't think that they can't win in the SEC. But I think Arkansas has a chance to be a really good job, but it's not a good job at 14th in the SEC in spending. It's not a good job when you consider the access to talent. Transfer portal era changes that. Get some money behind the program and they can win. There's nothing preventing Arkansas in this model from winning except for money. And the money is out there. It just has to come in. That's the only thing preventing Arkansas from winning. That, the right coach, and a good quarterback. There's a lot of good – I mean, everybody has their something that they don't have that they're missing. Like we talk about Baton Rouge, LSU. LSU got great stadium, facilities, fan support, access to talent. Baton Rouge isn't a great town. It's got good food. It's got some history, but it's not a great place to live. Fayetteville's a great place to live. Got facilities, got fan support, got passion behind it. Doesn't have access to great talent. There's always going to be something. But it can be mitigated this time, this new model of college football with the transfer portal and NIL. You can get over that hump. Teams are doing it. Teams that have never been in those positions are getting in those positions because of money. So Texas Tech, look what Texas Tech has done. Oregon over the years with money, even before the transfer portal, just because they had so much going towards their program for his, recruiting budget and facilities and all that kind of stuff. Indiana now. So, all right, everybody. I appreciate you joining me. Appreciate Eric Henry from Horns 24/7. Of course, Kevin Bohannan from HawgSports. And again, right now, 2 months for $1. Support what we do and check us out for a really low rate. It is a ploy. I'm going to get you through the door and you're going to get hooked. Okay. That's my trick. That's what I'm doing. I'll fully admit that I'm doing that. But if you don't check us out 2 months for $1, then you're never going to know what you're missing. We have one of the largest subscriber bases in the entire country at HawgSports. We have sold in the thousands on these promotions. See what we're doing. Come check us out. HawgSports.com. No promo code. 2 months, $1. And that's the show. Come check out what we got. Stay up to date with all the coaching search information and all the other stuff. There's so much stuff to come. Like, I don't think really people realize, just like, Arkansas doing things right now to prepare for an announcement, because even if you don't know who the coach is, you have to prepare. Like, we're doing those kind of things too. The transfer portal is coming. There's a whole recruiting cycle coming. Like, we hadn't had Danny West on the show in 3 weeks because I'm letting Danny chill, because it's coming for him, like sleepless nights. He's got a lot of stuff coming because there's an entire roster basically that's going to have to be built. Like, we're looking ahead to this kind of stuff that's coming, and I want him rested up for that. An entire roster, players going to be leaving, players going to be coming, the recruiting stuff, assistant coach is being hired. Who's out on the road recruiting? I hear so-and-so's out on the road recruiting with such and such coach. Is he the new such and such coach? Is this guy being retained? Guys, there's going to be all kinds of stuff to come, all kinds of residuals and aftershocks after this coaching search is done, and we're going to be there. I think it's going to be a pretty good place to get your news. So come sign up at HawgSports, HawgSports.com. All right. Thanks to everybody for joining. Appreciate your questions. Appreciate the comments, the good ones, the bad ones. We have fun with all that kind of stuff. And we'll be back with you next time, Saturday. What's the game at 2:30? So Saturday, about 4 hours after that kickoff, we'll be back with you with a walk and talk from Austin, Texas. It'd be nice to see a win. I've not been like Arkansas's definitely got a chance to win against Texas, and maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe they show up for it and win it. I really want to see Bobby Petrino go out. If he's not the head coach, I guess there's still an inkling, a small chance or something that he could be, but I would really like to send him out with a win over Missouri in that last game. All right, everybody. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.